of News Today, a series in which we discuss and briefly analyze the important news of the day. Let's have a look at today's main headlines. Prime Minister of India has announced the launch of the Global Digital Public Infrastructure Repository and the Social Impact Fund. India has voted in favor of the UN General Assembly resolution to establish a UN Convention on International Tax Cooperation. Central trade unions have urged government to ratify the ILO Conventions on Workers' Health and Safety. World Health Organization and UN partners have launched the first progress report for 2021 to 2023 on UN Decade of Healthy Aging 2021 to 2030. As per a recent study, large ozone holes reappear over Antarctica. Researchers have found a cost-effective alternative to metal 3D printing technology. Starting with today's first news, the Prime Minister of India has announced the launch of the Global Digital Public Infrastructure Repository and the Social Impact Fund. First, let's understand what digital public infrastructure exactly means. It is generally described as a set of shared digital systems that should be secure and interoperable, can be built on open standards and specifications to deliver and provide equitable access to public and private services, and are governed by legal frameworks to drive development, inclusion, and innovation. Digital public infrastructure is seen as a critical enabler of digital transformation and is helping to improve public service delivery at scale. Some examples of digital public infrastructure are Aadhaar, UPI, and DigiLocker. Coming back to the news, both the Global Digital Public Infrastructure Repository and the Social Impact Fund are India-led initiatives announced during the virtual G20 Leaders Summit. Earlier, a consensus was achieved at the G20 Digital Economy Working Group on the creation of a Global Digital Public Infrastructure Repository for the exchange of information and best practices. The repository, developed by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, is a comprehensive resource hub pooling essential lessons and expertise from G20 members and guest nations. Its aim is to bridge the knowledge gap required for the design, construction, deployment, and governance of digital public infrastructures. It showcases information in a standardized format from countries that have developed digital public infrastructure at scale, incorporating governance frameworks, etc. Currently, it features 54 digital public infrastructures from 16 countries. Now coming to the Social Impact Fund, it is envisioned as a government-led multi-stakeholder initiative to fast-track digital public infrastructure implementation in the Global South. The fund will offer financial support to provide technical and non-technical assistance to countries in developing digital public infrastructure systems. Moreover, it offers a platform for all relevant stakeholders to contribute to this fund and help accelerate achievement of sustainable development goals in low and middle income countries through digital public infrastructures. Notably, India has pledged an initial commitment of $25 million to the fund. In the next news, India has voted in favor of the UN General Assembly resolution to establish a UN Convention on International Tax Cooperation. Before moving on, let's take a closer look at the UN General Assembly and what it does. The UN General Assembly is the main policy-making organ of the United Nations. It provides a forum for multilateral discussions on international issues. Each of the 193 member states of the United Nations has an equal vote in its decisions. The main functions of the Assembly is to make key decisions for the UN, including appointing the Secretary General on the recommendation of the Security Council, electing the non-permanent members of the Security Council, and approving the UN budget. Coming back to the news, the resolution titled Promotion of Inclusive and Effective International Tax Cooperation at the United Nations was introduced by Nigeria. The objectives of the resolution are to mandate forming a member state-led, open-ended, intergovernmental ad hoc committee to develop a comprehensive UN tax convention, and to prioritize international tax cooperation while aiming to finalize the UN Tax Convention by June 2025. So what is the importance of this move? The resolution seeks to address various issues related to global taxation like aggressive tax avoidance, illicit financial flows, recovery of stolen assets, and fair taxation of the digital economy. It will prevent over $480 billion in loss in tax income every year due to international tax abuse. The resolution will put an end to the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development's monopoly on tax-related policies. Further, it allows all countries to participate in developing the rules by respecting tax sovereignty and promotes cooperation for a fair, sustainable, modern international tax system.
Recently, the Central Trade Unions or the CTUs have urged government to ratify the ILO Conventions on workers' health and safety. CTUs have expressed their concern regarding the workplace safety of workers in the light of recent Silkyara tunnel collapse in Uttarakhand. CTUs are organizations that aim to protect and promote the interests of their members, which are workers and employers. A few examples are All India Trade Union Congress or AITUC, or the Indian National Trade Union Congress or INTUC, and the Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh. In India, worker safety is covered under the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code or OSH WCC 2020. There are a few concerns with respect to the code. Like size-based thresholds, the code covers workers employed in establishments with at least 10 workers or more. The code also bars civil courts on hearing matters that come under the code. And last but not the least, the code does not answer all branches of economic activity. Let's take a look at India's current status regarding ratification of the various conventions of ILO. The important conventions ratified by India include Convention number 29 related to forced labor, Convention number 105 related to abolition of forced labor, number 100 related to equal remuneration, and Conventions number 111, 138 and 182 related to discrimination, minimum wage and worst forms of child labor respectively. The conventions that have not been ratified by India are Convention 87 related to freedom of association, Convention number 98 related to rights to organize and collective bargaining, Convention 155 related to occupational safety and health, and Convention 187 related to promotional framework for occupational safety and health. Now let's briefly discuss the International Labour Organization or the ILO. It was established in 1919. It is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. ILO is the only tripartite UN agency since 1919 that brings together governments, employers and workers. It has 187 members including India, which has been a founding member. The objective of ILO is to promote rights at work, encourage decent employment opportunities, enhance social protection and strengthen dialogue on work-related issues. The important reports released by the ILO are Renewable Energy and Jobs Annual Review 2023, The Road to Decent Work for Domestic Workers, etc. Recently, the World Health Organization and UN partners have launched the first progress report for 2021 to 2023 on UN Decade of Healthy Aging or the UNDHA. The UNDHA aims to give everyone the opportunity to add life to years wherever they live. It is a global collaboration that enhances older people's lives and recognizes fundamental health rights. Let's briefly go through the guiding principle for UNDHA. Inclusive and universal, leaving no one behind, equity and intergenerational solidarity, multi-stakeholder partnerships. Healthy aging is developing and maintaining the functional ability that enables well-being in older age. It is critical for numerous reasons: preventing older people from falling into poverty, reversing patterns of malnutrition and preventing dependence on care, longer contribution to society and increasing productivity, and lastly, pursuing gender equality. Now let's go through the findings of the report. 87% of countries reported having a policy or strategy for healthy aging in 2022. which is an increase from 73% in 2020. Informal unpaid carers have insufficient support, and only 16% of low-income countries provide such support. Resources for work towards healthy aging remain limited, and more investments are still needed. UNDHA targets 4 action areas for healthy aging: changing perspective towards age and aging, communities foster the abilities of older people, delivering person-centered integrated care and primary health services responsive to older people, providing access to long-term care for older people. Coming to the next news, as per a recent study, large ozone holes reappear over Antarctica. As per the study from 2020 to 2022, ozone hole has grown larger and thinner over Antarctica. Since 2004, researchers saw a total reduction of 26% at the core of ozone hole. As we all know, the ozone hole is a region of exceptionally depleted ozone in the stratosphere over Antarctica. And ozone is a highly reactive molecule formed of 3 oxygen atoms found primarily in 2 regions of atmosphere. Now, what are the potential drivers of ozone hole over Antarctica? Well, there are many drivers. Number 1, the changes in Antarctic polar vortex, or the polar vortex is a stratospheric wind pattern with a vast swirl of low pressure and very cold air high above South Pole. Number 2, aerosols from wildfires and volcanic eruptions. Number 3, changes in solar cycle. And lastly, the climate change and increased atmospheric abundance of chlorofluorocarbons or CFCs. Now, let's discuss some other important facts related to ozone layer. Well, ozone layer is a thin shield of gas in Earth's atmosphere that protects the Earth, absorbing the sun's ultraviolet rays. Human-made greenhouse gases known as ozone-depleting substances or ODSs have been destroying the ozone layer. Major ODSs include chlorine, bromine, CFCs, carbon tetrachloride, and halogens. Montreal Protocol on Substances that Deplete Ozone Layer 1987 aims to phase out production and consumption of ODSs. According to the United Nations Environment Programme, ozone layer is on track to recover within 4 decades.
Moving on, researchers have found a cost-effective alternative to metal 3D printing technology. IIT Mandi researchers have found that the process of extrusion-based metal additive manufacturing is cost-effective in comparison to other approaches in metal 3D printing. Metal additive manufacturing utilizes fine metal powders to construct robust, intricate components through computer-aided design programs or 3D scanning. Now let's discuss the concept of 3D printing in more detail. 3D printing uses computer-aided design to make prototypes or working models of objects by laying down successive layers of materials such as plastic, resin, thermoplastic, metal, fiber, or ceramic. It is the opposite of subtractive or traditional manufacturing, which involves cutting out or hollowing out a piece of metal or plastic with tools like a milling machine. It has various applications in the fields like medical and allied sector, consumer electronics, and jewelry sector, and can even be used to produce advanced aerospace components like airframes. Now, the 3D printing process has many advantages. It lowers inventory costs due to on-demand printing, reduces time, and can be used to print complex designs. Moreover, 3D printing creates little to no waste as compared to other methods of manufacturing. Given the importance of 3D printing, there have been a number of important developments in the field in India as well. In 2020, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology released the National Strategy for Additive Manufacturing to tap its potential. India's first 3D printed post office was created in Bengaluru, and Telangana unveiled world's first 3D printed temple at Burugupalli Siddipet district.
The personality in the news for today is retired Justice Fathima Beevi. Recently retired Justice Fathima Beevi, India's first woman Supreme Court Justice, passed away. She was born in Travancore in the present state of Kerala. In 1950, she became the first woman law graduate to get the gold medal from Bar Council. She became a district Sessions Judge in 1974 and later a Judge of Kerala High Court in 1983. She was a Supreme Court judge between 1989 and 1992. She served as a member of the National Human Rights Commission and also the Governor of Tamil Nadu. She exhibited the ethical values like courage, honesty, and equality.
As we conclude today's main news, let's go through some quick updates. India and Finland hold talks over Finland's digitalization, education, sustainability and innovation initiative or DESI. The initiative is a program of Embassy of Finland to strengthen the preferred partnership between Finland and India. The Securities and Exchange Board of India has launched the Investor Risk Reduction Access platform at the Bombay Stock Exchange. The platform has been developed to reduce risk faced by investors in the eventuality of technical glitches at the trading members' end at both the primary site and disaster recovery site. Inland Waterways Authority of India and e-commerce company Amazon signed an MOU for customer shipments via inland waterways using the river Ganga. Ganga's stretch from Haldia and Prayagraj was declared as National Waterway 1 in the year 1986. Genesis International and Survey of India announced a partnership to create digital twins of major cities and towns. Digital twin is a digital representation of a physical object, person or process contextualized in a digital version of its environment. Indian Green Building Council has introduced new green rating tools as a part of its net zero mission to accelerate the uptake of green building projects in the country. The Council is India's premier certification body for greening of projects established by the Confederation of Indian Industry in the year 2001. James Webb Space Telescope took an image of the dense heart of Milky Way galaxy and revealed its new features. A successor to the Hubble telescope, James Webb Space Telescope is the largest and most powerful space telescope. It is a collaboration between NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Canadian Space Agency. Manipur government has raised concerns that Loktak Lake's hydroelectric plant may affect Sangai deer. Kebul Lamjao National Park in Manipur is the last natural habitat of the endangered Sangai deer. Bengaluru to host Maiden Kambala. The festival is an annual buffalo race and is observed by the farming community of coastal Karnataka. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to the test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answers to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.